The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. All right. Had a chance to listen to the Josh Harris group today in their press conference. The introductory press conference was outstanding. We've had the pleasure of listening to Josh Harris now 2 days in a row. And I must say, I was thoroughly impressed. It reminds me a lot of what I felt walking away from the introductory press conference of Eric Bieniemy and how I was blown away. And I think part of the reason we're so enthusiastic about Eric Bieniemy was that initial press conference. And you always hear the adage, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And that initial impression that was made on us was it was impactful and profound. And I think that's why we're so excited. Obviously, coming from Kansas City and working with Andy Reid and all of that are major reasons why. But I think it's just feeling that energy from EB and the message that he delivered. I got the same vibes from Josh Harris, Mitchell Rales, Magic Johnson today. Those guys spoke very highly of this organization, their desire to win and bring a championship back here to DC. Remember last night I talked about being somewhat apprehensive initially about having another owner that was a fan of the team growing up, being from the area, not knowing if that was really healthy and what we really needed in the next owner, and then kind of having those fears somewhat quelled and feeling a lot better after listening to him talk. Those fears have been put to rest. As a matter of fact, I think that is actually now a strength. It is a positive, a massive positive, as a matter of fact. Him talking about his upbringing, going to RFK Stadium, not having season tickets, but going to games as a kid, looking up to those teams. And a lot of those players were sitting right there in the front row. Dexter Manley, Darryl Green, the list goes on and on. A lot of those alumni guys that usually come back every year, they were there in attendance. This was a big deal. One of the things I did not like was I didn't think it was enough juice. I thought everybody was so subdued, and Josh Harris was trying to get them amped and get them crunk, and everybody was just like, y'all get up, get pumped, get excited. Like they needed some real energy. Like they needed fans in there and not just media members who are trying to stay professional. Nah, we supposed to be lit. This man is here to take over for the worst owner in NFL history. Okay. And you need to be out of your damn seat, giving this man a standing ovation for rescuing us. But I was blown away by the press conference. And I feel like, and it's funny because there were a lot of fans that didn't want Washington to win a Super Bowl, didn't want their own team to win a Super Bowl, because winning a Super Bowl would mean that Daniel Snyder was going to get his stinking, sticky, nasty paws on that Lombardi, and he was going to feel vindicated, like he was a good NFL owner. And there were fans that said, you know what? I'd rather not win anything than Daniel Snyder get the satisfaction of thinking he's doing a good enough job to keep being the owner of this NFL franchise. So I feel the direct opposite with Josh Harris and company. Like, I want us to win a Super Bowl so that those guys can be rewarded for coming in here and rescuing us, for being, these stewards, as they say, over this franchise. And so in listening to Josh Harris today, combining that with what he said yesterday, shout out to Miss Perry for sending me the entire 17-minute presser. I had three massive takeaways from the Josh Harris presser, introductory presser from today. And so he's instilled hope in this franchise, in this fan base. And I told you guys yesterday, Dan Snyder had taken the life out of this fan base, and he had taken away the biggest gift that one can be given in life, not in sports as a fan, but in life. He had taken away hope from us as a fan base. I mean, that's the most dangerous thing you can do, is when you take away hope, you've got nothing. Josh Harris has restored that. He has given us a reason to believe that why not us? Eric Bieniemy came in and said, everyone asked him, why'd you choose Washington? Why not Washington? And that's the question we should be asking ourselves this season. Why not us? Daniel Snyder's gone. Why not us? That's the kind of hope that Josh Harris and this group has instilled in us. So let's get to these three massive takeaways. All right. Number 3. All right. And I'm going in order of least to greatest. So the number 1 takeaway is going to be the biggest. The third takeaway is not going to be a small one, but it's going to be the least biggest, if that makes any sense. So let's start with number 3. The Josh Harris group will restore order in the nation's capital. That's the first takeaway that I had from the press conference today. Listening to him speak about what's important. The legacy. Yesterday, he talked about the legacy and how that wasn't something that was lost on him. Understanding that what he does is going to matter. And it's going to be a legacy that he's going to leave behind. And he understands that this team means so much to this community, and it means so much to this area. And he's got to make sure that he uplifts this team and brings them back to where they used to be. You couple that from yesterday with what he said today about wanting to take care of the fans, make the fan experience more enjoyable, get into the communities. But most importantly, what he said was, I want to bring a winner, a Super Bowl championship back to Washington. That's what I want to hear. You know, I love that he's going to try to make the fan experience better. He's going to try to do some things to, you know, he talked about in the stadium, you know, the stadium is your home, right? And he's like, you can't, you have to take care of your visitors. You can't have broken TVs. Like he was like sneak dissing Dan almost. I loved it, right? So I love the fact that he's talking about taking care of the fans, making the game day experience, making the fan experience better, all of that stuff. But what I care about most, and I was waiting for it, I was like, bro, you ain't said the magic word. I'm waiting on it. You ain't said the magic phrase. I'm waiting on it. He said winning and a Super Bowl. I said, okay, my guy. Okay, we on the same page. We here. All right. At first, I was like, wait a minute. Don't go all Bruce Allen on me. Start worrying about picnics and winning off the field. I need to hear that you want to win on the field. And he made sure he cleaned that up. And he said, look, we know how this works. Understand that I'm the owner of the Philadelphia 76ers. When we first got there, we quickly learned how passionate of a fan base that was. Okay? I know what I'm in for. I grew up rooting for this team. I know how rabid this fan base can be. And I also know what this town can be like when this team is good. And I plan on bringing a Super Bowl championship back to Washington. That's music to my ears, man. This guy is going to restore order in the nation's capital, along with Mitchell Rales and Magic Johnson and company. They are going to restore order here. I feel confident in that assessment. That's takeaway number 1. Takeaway number 2. This is a make or break year for Ron Rivera. Despite the admiration, and he has made it abundantly clear that he admires the job that Ron Rivera has done. What have I been telling you guys? I said, look, you don't have to love Ron. As a matter of fact, you can think that Ron Rivera is the worst coach in the league for all I care. But you have to acknowledge that Ron Rivera has done one hell of a job at helping change the culture here in Washington, giving Washington a positive face that they can put out to the masses and not look like dumbasses. That was Ron Rivera. That was the guy they pushed out in front of the cameras and said, hey, Ron, smile for the cameras. And Ron did a hell of a job of giving this organization credibility. You can't have credibility with Jay Gruden as your head coach, okay? You don't have any credibility with Jay Gruden as your head coach. We had credibility because of Ron Rivera. And he put up with a lot of shit. And nope, he hasn't won at the rate we would like to see him win. But he's put us in a position that even if he's not here, and Ron said this, I just want to leave this situation in a much better spot than the way I found it. Well, he's already done that tenfold, okay? Whether he makes it out of the season this year or he gets canned after the season, he's done what he was brought here to do, which was help change the culture, if nothing else. Yeah, we wanted him to win, but if that doesn't happen, he succeeded at least helping change the culture here. With that said, and while Josh Harris has been watching from afar and respects Ron Rivera and respects what he's done, yesterday, Josh Harris said, this is an important year. Today, he doubled down on the fact that this is an important year, meaning not just because this is his first year, not just because they're looking to come in and make instant changes, but because he wants to see what this staff is going to do. They don't win this season, he's gone. Okay? He is gone. He said this is an important year twice already in 2 days. So that tells you that Ron is coaching for his job. I'm rooting for Ron. I hope he gets it done. But Josh Harris isn't cutting him any breaks. Yep, it's been tough. You've dealt with a lot. We understand that. But if you can't get it done, I'm going to find someone else that can. That's takeaway number 2 for me. Finally, takeaway number 1, and this is the biggest takeaway that I have gotten from the Josh Harris group since they've taken over, and listening to them talk today, listening to Magic Johnson on the Today Show, the number 1 biggest takeaway is they're changing the name. We're getting a new name, guys and gals. We're getting a new name. Okay? We are getting a new name. Now, it's not going to be this year, obviously. And it may not be next year, but we're getting a new name. So prepare yourself for another rebrand. Okay? Magic Johnson went on the Today Show, and he told them that they are going to sit down and they're going to discuss the name, all right? And everything's on the table. And Josh Harris, without saying it today, pretty much said, yeah, we're going to discuss the name. But he even went further than just saying we're going to discuss the name. He said, we got to see how people feel about the name. He already knows how people in the city feel about the name. He says, it doesn't matter how I feel about the name. How do they feel about the name? Well, they want the name changed. And furthermore, there was a report from ESPN, and I believe this because I can tell you just by listening, you know, I'm a big read in between the lines guy, right? Just from listening, I can tell you right now, Josh Harris is disgusted with what Daniel Snyder has done to this organization. He's disgusted, not with Daniel Snyder. I don't know if he has a problem with Snyder personally or not. He's probably happy that Snyder sold him the team, probably doesn't think much of Daniel Snyder as a human being, But I don't know if he despises Daniel Snyder. I know he despises what Daniel Snyder has done to this organization. I do know that. Just listening to him today, you can hear it. The man literally said what I've been telling you for the last 7-8 months. This used to be the gold standard franchise. This used to be the #1 franchise in the NFL. If Forbes was doing an evaluation, Washington Redskins at the very top. Snyder ran this thing into the ground, and I think we're now 7th, right? You can tell that Josh Harris is really pissed about that. And in saying that, that ESPN article referenced wanting to clean the organization and scrub it clean of any remnants of Dan Snyder, which I also believe to be true. If that is in fact the case, they got to get rid of the name. And I think they intend on doing that. Now, they're not going back to Redskins, for all of you out there that want them to change the name back to Redskins. And a lot of you just don't understand why that can't happen. It's not going to happen. Okay. So I don't know what the new name will be. And we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We'll have to go through that whole song and dance again. I really wasn't looking forward to doing that, but it's happening, folks. It's happening. They're going to change this name. All right. And I don't know what that means for the uniforms. I don't know, I know he's not going to touch the color scheme. Will that mean that we're getting rid of black altogether? Or is he going to continue to incorporate the black in the new uniforms when that time comes? Again, these are all questions we don't have the answers to, and we won't have the answers to for another 3-4 years down the road. But I'm just telling you right now, they're changing the name. Okay. We won't be the Commanders for very much longer. I'd say maybe 3 years max. We're still the Commanders. Next 2 years, by year 3 of his ownership tenure, I think we'll have a brand new name. That's my guess. But anyway, what do I know? So those are my 3 biggest takeaways from what I thought was a fantastic introductory press conference by the Harris Group. I'm looking forward to seeing how everything kind of shakes out. He was very adamant about really wanting to focus on football. I mean, I just love everything about this dude because he gets it. And I think what really helps him understand a lot of this is he owns 2 other franchises, and one in the NHL, the New Jersey Devils, and one in the NBA, obviously the Philadelphia 76ers. I think that helps him understand what's important. He's like, yo, we got training camp next week. Like, as much as I want to talk about stadium, this, that, like, we got football games in 6 weeks. He's like, yo, we play a game in 6 weeks. Training camp starts next week. Like, I'm focused on football right now. As much as y'all want to talk about stadium and name, we got football games we trying to win right now. I love that. Like, don't lose sight of what is supposed to be the most important thing. Keep the main thing, which is winning football games. So many people want to talk about the ancillary shit, right? And I get what the name means to some people. You're not getting that name back, okay? You're not getting the Redskins name back. It's not coming back. Sorry. I hate to be the messenger, but you're not getting the name back. And I know the name means so much to some people, but guess what? Winning football games means more. Okay? So, and he understands that. So I really, really love what I heard from them today. And I'm looking forward to seeing how all of this transpires. If Ron can save his hide this year. Emmanuel Forbes, just a side note, signed his rookie contract today. So maybe they just were waiting on new ownership to take place to make any more financial moves. Maybe that was the case. I figured, I told you guys it wasn't a big deal once they get to camp. He wasn't going to miss camp time. We already know what his deal looks like and how much he's going to be guaranteed and this, that, and the third. So I was like, I don't understand why it's not done. Maybe that's why it wasn't done. And a lot of you who said that in the comment section of that particular video were spot on. But it got done today. And so nothing to see here. move on. The rookies should be showing up today, if not today, tomorrow. Veterans a day or two after that, and then we're off and running with camp. And 2023 season, here we come. So let's get to the comment section. See what you guys have to say. Red Wings 01, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Red Wings 01 writes, adding to what I said last night, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's bittersweet. Also, I needed to hear from the new group to get a feel for them. I can rock with Josh, and having Rails and Magic on board is encouraging. Yeah, I can tell you right now, you always want to listen to people talk and to get a real feel for it. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And having listened to them yesterday or Harris yesterday, and then hearing him again today, and hearing Mitchell Rails, and he told a story about being a fan coming from Pennsylvania with his family at the age of 10, and making the switch from being a Steelers fan to a Redskins fan, and getting season tickets and being at all the home games at RFK, and what that environment was like. It hammers the point home that these guys get it. They understand what has been lost, and they know what this town can be, and what this team can be, and what this city is when that team is good, and they're looking to restore that here in DC and bring that glory back. So again, it makes it a little bit more special when you have those types of people. And again, that is something that was a problem with Dan, but it wasn't that, it was just Dan as a person. He was impulsive, he was impatient. So those guys aren't that, and they talked about, Josh Harris talked about being a people person, and he's found that in sports, but just in general in business, how you are end up being successful is about surrounding yourself with smart people, with the right people, with good people. And I couldn't agree with that more. So I love that statement from you, Red Wings 01, because this group is definitely, I think, the right group of people that we need at this current juncture for the direction that we're heading in. So I'm excited. I'm really, really excited. Thank you for the super chat, Red Wings 01. Kevin, the PRF, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Kevin, the PRF writes, I don't know, LT. Feels like it's just fan appeasement. I think if they're going to rebrand, they would just refer to the team as Washington, not Commanders. It could be. It could be that. I've all along said I don't want another rebrand. I'm perfectly fine with Commanders. I don't want to go through the whole song and dance of changing the name again. But I'm telling you, I think they don't want to have any remnants of Snyder. Like, I think he is so disgusted with what Snyder has brought this franchise to. Like, literally, Snyder brought this franchise to its knees. It is a shell of what it used to be. And I think in his mind, in order to move forward, to start to rectify the problem, you got to get rid of everything that traces back to Snyder. Have you seen they're already making improvements to the stadium? Like, he wasn't bullshitting when he said, if it's your house, you got to take care of your house. They've already added rails to the stadium and the sections. They've already added different lines to the grass on the field. Like, he's not bullshitting around. I'm just telling you, and you could be right, and it could just be saving face, because I told you guys, and I've already seen it in action on social media. And that's not the best place to use as a barometer, because social media is so toxic. However, we already knew that this was going to be the case, that he was going to come in here And the first thing he was going to run into was a million people, a million fans pulling him in a million different directions. And like, you know, even the line of questions that he's dealt with the last 2 days, I feel like he's been asked the same 5 or 6 questions in 6 or 7 different ways. It's the same damn question. What are you going to do for the stadium? What are you going to do with the name? You know, it seems like those are the 2 issues everybody's picking at. Then they want to bring up, oh, well, you own other franchises. Do you think that's going to help you with this franchise? Those 3 different topics, they've used those 3 as the basis for their questions, and they've asked that same question in 5 or 6 different ways. What are you going to do with the stadium? RFK. So instead of saying, what are you going to do for the stadium? You know, they'll say, RFK was such a big part of your upbringing. You know, is RFK something that you're really interested in trying to get back? Like, that's the same damn question as the stadium. I don't have any answers for you about that right now. I just got here. Football starts next week. 6 weeks from now, we're playing a football game. I don't know what I'm going to do with the stadium yet. Sorry, I just got here. Just like the name, I just got here. I don't know what I'm going to do with the name. I just got here. But I know they're going to start playing tackle football in 6 weeks. And we start training camp in 4 days. I probably need to be focused on that first. So it could just be a front to appease the fans, as you said, because he already knows. He's a smart guy. He knows he's going to come in here and he's going to be bombarded with so many different requests from the fans. Better game day experience, you know, got to fix the Sean Taylor statue. And somebody brought up a great point. I didn't say this last night, but we were talking about inside the stadium. And I just need to rectify this right now. We were talking about inside the stadium. That I said the only thing that they have to make sure they do with Sean Taylor is I want a statue inside the stadium. He said and somebody in the comment section said the only statue that needs to be at the next stadium is that of Joe Jackson Gibbs. Facts. I don't want a Joe statue in the stadium. I want a Joe Gibbs statue outside of that bitch. We need to commemorate Joe Jackson Gibbs outside the stadium. There should be a massive bronze statue of Joe Jackson Gibbs outside of the new stadium. Wherever they build that shit, there better be a statue of Joe Gibbs on the outside. You don't even have to go in the stadium to see that shit. At least the Sean joint, you got to go inside. Joe, you should be able to see from the outside. He deserves that. But anyway, I don't want to go off on a tangent. At the end of the day, I think they're going to change the name. I actually believe that they want all of the stench of Daniel Snyder removed from this organization, and you can't have that if the name still remains. I'll say this. I would prefer to not go through another rebrand. I've already made it abundantly clear but I told you I don't care. My preference is to not go through another rebrand. We've been through it 3 times now already, right? Twice rather already. And we've had 3 different names in the last 5 years or 4 years, whatever it's been. I don't want to go through another name change. However, if they do, I don't care. I've already made it abundantly clear. I don't care enough one way or the other. My preference is that we just leave it alone. So you can tell that he doesn't know what to call it. He's called them, you know, Washington a number of times. He's called them the Commanders a few times. He said Redskins multiple times, but usually that's in reference to his youth and growing up. But he calls it Washington more than he calls it anything else. So I think they're going to change the name. I mean, I'll say this to your point. You know, if we're going back to the point that you made, I'll say this. If you're looking to appease the fans, sending Magic Johnson to the Today Show and having him say what he said is a great way to do that. So on one hand, I get where you're coming from. I just really legitimately think they're going to change the name. I really do. Thank you for that super chat, Kevin the PRF. Lorenzo Simpson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Zoe, writes, Still dancing in the streets. Yeah, that's right. Still dancing in the streets. Shake it, warrior. I had this whole thing lined up where we were all going to be dancing. You could send me clips, all this. And then the software that I was going to use, the app that I was going to use, they shut down. So I don't have any way to really do it now. But I had this whole grandiose plan of us dancing in the streets. And that no longer is happening. But you're free to dance in the streets wherever you are. The newness hasn't worn off. And I don't think it will for a while. Probably until we actually start playing football games. The newness won't wear off. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. King of the North, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, if they don't change the name after this season, then I doubt they'll ever do it. The longer Commanders is the name, the more people will get used to it, especially if we win. I think they are open to doing it, but won't. I hope they don't. They're definitely open to doing it. You're right. It'll be much easier to part with the name if Rivera goes 7-10 this year and gets canned. You go 11-6, make the playoffs, win a playoff game as the Commanders. I don't know if they're going to be able to change the name or even be, looking to change the name at that point. I think that is a very, very valid and excellent point. The longer the name sticks around, the more people get used to it, the stronger the brand becomes. And at that point, why even mess with it? Why tamper with it? Like I said already, you're always going to have a faction of this fan base that won't be satisfied no matter what's done, whether you leave the name the same, whether you change it to something else. If you don't change it to what they want, you're not going to satisfy them. And there's always going to be a faction of the fan base that won't be satisfied unless the name is changed back to Redskins, which isn't going to happen. So you can't satisfy them anyway. So you're not going to win if you're Josh Harris in this situation. You can't appease everyone. So your goal should be appease as many fans as possible. If I'm him, I'm looking to not only appease fans, but at the same time, save me money. I've spent $6 billion, or, as a collective group, we've spent $6 billion. The last thing I'm looking to do is spend millions upon millions of dollars to rebrand yet again. There's enough fans in the fan base who don't give a shit about the name at this point that you'll be just fine. You win football games and a lot of people will come around. But I still think they're going to change the name. But I think that just like Kevin, the PRF said, and you're saying, it's a very valid point, King of the North. The longer the name remains Commanders, the less likely it is going to be changed. So if they're going to do it, I think it's going to be after, this season. But just like we saw with the Washington Commanders rebrand, it takes a while. It takes a while. So even if they want to change the name, you got to have new jerseys. You got to have new marketing. You got to change the stadium. There's so much that has to be done. You're not doing all of that in 1 year. So I think that at a bare minimum, your Commanders for the next 2 years, they may say, hey, this is the last year we're going to be the Commanders. Just like they said, this is the last year you're going to be the Washington football team, and then you're getting a new name the following year. They could say that after next season. They could say, hey, this will be the last season that we'll be the Commanders, and then we'll be getting a new name in 2025. But if they don't do that, I think you're right. I don't think they're going to change the name. I right now feel like the name is going to be changed. Just listening to them talk. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, so Forbes' deal got done today. Good to see the front office is no longer shackled. I don't know if anyone is getting extended, but they can work now. Yeah, we've been talking about like a Cam Curl extension and things of that nature. I don't think he's going to get an extension done this summer, but I do know they want him back. So I would not be shocked if something got done before the start of the season. if he plays well, the first 6 or 7 weeks, I wouldn't be shocked if something got done during the season. But I think the likelihood is Cam Curl gets something done next, off season when he's a free agent, and they just don't let him get to free agency as soon as the season's over, like they did with Charles Leno. They lock him up right at the end of the season. I think that's more likely what is to transpire with Cam Curl. But to your point, I think they can finally move around and do some of the things that they were incapable of doing because they had to wait. They were kind of just stuck in limbo because the finances were kind of tied up in the transfer of ownership. So now they're free to kind of move. And I think the first proof of that is this deal getting done with Emmanuel Forbes, which should have been done a long time ago. So, yeah, I think you're spot on there, Red Wing 01. Video channel, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Video channel writes, I was there today, Luz. Base was lit. Ex and current players were excited. Dan leaving has uplifted the soul of this team. Ron has his best shot to win. I couldn't agree with you more. I didn't feel the energy through the television. I didn't feel the energy through my mobile device. Even Josh Harris said, come on, get up. He's trying to amp him, and it didn't sound like they got any louder, right? It just felt like a lot of golf claps, I'm like, first of all, if it meant as much as I felt like it meant, he should have had to tell everybody that's enough. Because they should have been clapping for like 10 minutes straight, and he should have been like, okay, all right, you guys, you're too kind. All right, he should have had to do that. Like, this is a big effing deal. This man ran our franchise into the ground, and Josh Harris and this group came and saved us. He should get a standing ovie. I didn't feel that. And then when he was done and they said, hey, that's it. Josh Harris, your new owner. And Harris is like, yeah, come on. And it didn't sound like it got any louder, to me at least. But, the players are excited about this. The past and present players are excited about this. Absolutely. Everybody's excited about this. I can't think of one person who wanted Dan around. Not a single soul. There wasn't anybody that was Team Dan. Like, man, I'm sure going to miss Mr. Snyder. He might have treated you well, but you understood that a lot of the losing and a lot of the pain, suffering, and misery that has been caused, it traces back to one man. And even though he might have treated you well because your name is Dexter Manley or your name's Daryl Green or your name is Art Monk, even though he might have treated you well, he's still an ass, and his organization is still burning in hell because of him. So trust and believe that these alumni wanted to see him go, and the players definitely wanted to see him carry his ass, without a doubt. You see Ron smile today? I was like, damn, Ron. Tone that shit down a bit. Ron was too excited. Everybody's excited. Dejan Bell, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Dejan Bell writes, we got our team back. Can we get a welcome back? Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. We back in this building, man. We back in the game. And as I said last night, shit's about to change. Like, it's about to get real in the NFC East. Because now, like, I feel like we've never swept the entire division. And I don't think that's going to happen this year. But why not? I expect to beat the Giants twice this year. I'm going to be pissed if we don't. Because the one thing, and I'm gonna tell them this on the next Super Friends stream. The one thing that has stopped us from beating the Giants and Daniel Jones every single time is the quarterback position. That's what saved them every single time. Think about this. Daniel Jones kills us. Think about the quarterbacks he's beat. Just start playing that game in your head. Give me one good quarterback he's beaten here in Washington. If he would have ever seen Kirk Cousins here, he'd have got his ass mopped. Every time they beat us, they barely beat us. And we're sending trash out there at the quarterback position. Not to shit on Taylor Heineke, because I appreciate what he brought to the table, but he's a backup quarterback, just like the rest of the bums he's beaten. Dwayne Haskins, Case Keenum, Taylor Heineke. Like, these are the quarterbacks that he's routinely beating here in Washington. That shit's about to come to an end. So I'm feeling really good. Feeling really good. Frankie P, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Frankie writes, I was there too. The clips don't do it justice. We were chanting, thank you, Josh, for a while, and we're chanting for Magic to speak. The fans are back. That's good to know. Again, we didn't hear that on the different streams that we were watching, or at least I didn't. I can't speak for anybody. Maybe you guys heard that. That's good to know. I want him to feel like, I want him to feel welcomed, and I want him to feel like this is your team, and we can't thank you enough. Like the level of gratitude is immeasurable. Thank you for saving us. Like, I can't stress that enough. So I'm glad that y'all kind of serenaded him with that, because I needed to feel that energy. I'm glad y'all are saying that that's what the energy was like there, because I didn't feel that transferring through the screen. So cool. That's good to know. Thank you, Frankie P. Anyway, I digress. That's the last comment. So we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. I wasn't looking to hijack your Friday. I just wanted to come in, give you my thoughts on the presser and what I thought, and my three biggest takeaways from what I heard. And so, just to recap, number 3, the Harris group, particularly Josh Harris, they're going to restore order in the nation's capital. I think they're going to turn this program into a winner, a big one at that. I just see it happening. Listening to them talk, their background and how they feel, and having, I think the thing that pushes it over the top for me is his past experience with running other organizations and doing it successfully. I think it's only going to bode well for him coming into the NFL. Number 2, this is a make or break year for Ron Rivera. Yesterday, he said this is an important season. Today, he doubled down and said this is an important season twice. So he's not just saying that because this is the first year of his ownership group taking over. He's saying that because if you don't get it done this season, we're going to have to go in a different direction, and we will start this thing from scratch. So it is a big season, and Ron Rivera knows it, and he already been through this before. We've talked about this. He dealt with the exact same thing in Carolina with ownership change and being fired the next year. He didn't even make it out of that next season. So he knows what's at stake. It's a big year for him. It's a make or break. And then number 1, my biggest takeaway, I think they're going to change the name. I think we're getting a new name here in about 2 years' time. I think we'll be the Commanders for 2 more years. 2025 is when I think they'll be ready to roll out something new. So you'll go through the entire 2023 season. At the end of this season, I think they will make an announcement that says, hey, this is the last year we'll be the Commanders. We will have a new name in 2025, and they'll roll out a new name after the season, the 2024 season. So That's the vibe that I'm getting. Some valid points were made. Kevin the PRF, King of the North, made some great points to the contrary, maybe. And so we'll see. I hope I'm wrong because I really don't want to go through another rebrand. But if they do it, I'm all in. It's whatever at this point. All right. So Sovereign Legacy. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, "What's up, Lou? What's up, Sovereign Legacy? Love the presser today. Got all the warm and fuzzies. Bart Scott. Can't wait." I was right there with you. I mean, I was loving every second of it. Even the other guys that Mitchell Rails and Magic Johnson. I felt like we got a chance to not only turn it around, but I'd like, why not this year? Everywhere Magic goes, winning follows. Why not this year? We'll see. I was right there with you, Sovereign Legacy. Thank you for the super chat. Door Gunner, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Door Gunner writes, "Spent a lot of money over the years to support this team, traveling to games from way out of the DMV. Hated giving Dan my money. I did it to support the players. I'm excited to swipe the card again." And that's huge, man. That's huge because a lot of people, some people don't care. They didn't care about Dan Snyder. They were always going to rep the squad, right? But some people reluctantly, like yourself, reluctantly swipe the card. But like you said, you were going not to support Dan, but the players. If we were to have won and won big, I wouldn't have been, celebrating Dan. I would have been celebrating the coaching staff and the players. But there's no way the owner isn't going to get credit for winning the Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen. So indirectly, whether you wanted to admit it or not, I did my fair share of supporting, even though I didn't want to support him. I had my strike, and my strike was because I didn't think we were ever going to get to this point. I already told you guys that. So my stance when I put my foot down was I want Bruce Allen gone. And I'm not spending another dime, penny, nickel, nothing on this organization until Bruce Allen's gone. So there was no tickets. There was no paraphernalia. I wasn't buying anything associated with the team, not even a reduced markdown sweatshirt at Marshall's. Nothing. Ross, nothing. All right. He needs to go, and then I'm back in the game. And so that was my stance because, I bought season tickets, and I knew I was supporting Dan, but that wasn't the goal, but it was what it was. So like you said, you feel a lot better now about supporting, knowing that this is an ownership group that you can get behind, for sure. Thank you for that super chat, Door Gunner. Dejan Bell, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Dejan writes, "Should I go to week 4 or week 8 for my first FedEx game?" I got to look at the schedule again. I'm not going to lie to you. I've forgotten pretty much. I had the whole schedule committed to memory when it first came out, and I've forgotten the entire schedule already. Pretty much. I know week 1, Arizona, week 2, Denver, week 3, Buffalo. I thought week 4 was a road game, honestly. I could be wrong, but I don't know the schedule. So I can't tell you which one you should go to, honestly. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, "If Harris really wants to scrub clean of all Dan's footprints, then Ron and Jason Wright don't have a chance." I don't know if that constitutes Dan necessarily, those two. Because if you're saying that, then you would have to fire every single person in that building because Dan is responsible for every single person in that building being there, right? And I'm not talking about all of Ron's staff and Jason Wright. I'm talking about Julie Donaldson, right? I'm talking about all of the diverse people that he's put in positions of power. He hired, a Latina female. He hired, Jason Wright. He put Julie Donaldson in a position that no female had really been in around the league. And there's countless others on the staff that you'd have to get rid of if you're going with that premise. I don't think when you think about scrubbing the organization clean of Dan, I don't think he's talking about people, because he's made it abundantly clear that he's a people person and that his businesses are ran and are successful because of people. So I think he wants to get the vibe of what these people are, what they bring to the table, and then he's going to assess whether he wants to keep them on board or not. I don't think he's just going to say, well, Daniel Snyder hired you, I'm going to fire you. So I don't think Jason nor Ron are in danger because of, a Dan Snyder affiliation or attachment. If they do their jobs well, they'll be here. It's as simple as that, I think. So I don't think that's going to factor into it. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's going to factor into it. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. King of the North writes, looking forward to seeing us hire our first real GM since Charlie Casserly. You're assuming that they get rid of Martin Mayhew. If Ron's here, Martin Mayhew's here. So you're assuming Ron gets canned, because Mayhew technically is a GM. So if we were to clean house and start with a new GM, that would be something that we're not used to. Because listen to the list of GMs we've had since Dan came on board. Like you said, the last real GM since Charlie Casserly, who was let go as soon as Dan got here. Vinny Serrato was a pseudo GM when he first got here before Marty fired him. Then we actually got some real people in the building when Marty was here for 1 year. As a matter of fact, let me see who was actually the GM in 2001, the lone Marty season. And that could be the last real GM that we had. So I'm gonna check, and let me look. Type this in and see what we get. So yeah, they really didn't have a GM. They had a vice president of player personnel, which was John Schneider, which is the GM for the Seattle Seahawks. And Bobby Mitchell was the assistant GM. So I guess you could say it was John Schneider, really. So that would probably be the last time we had a real decision maker with chops. Now, there was the one season or two of Scott McLuhan, but it was Vinny Serrato, it was Bruce Allen, Scott McLuhan, and now Martin Mayhew. So yeah, we'll see what happens. That would be really interesting, because we haven't been in that position in a very long time, where you select a GM, that GM then selects a head coach, and then you kind of go from there. We haven't been there in over 2 decades, where we actually had a functional organization that did things we were hiring offensive coordinators before we hired head coaches. Where's the psychological sense in that, right? Anyway, I digress. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Red Wings writes, honestly, I don't hate keeping Mayhew as long as Ron and Herney keep the say in drafting, which, by the way, we've done a good job at since Ron has gotten here. I actually really like Marty Herney, and you know that. I've said this to you guys many times. I am a big fan of Marty Herney. I think he's a really good talent evaluator. He's a boots on the ground type of guy. He's going to these pro days. He's talking to these coaches. He's talking to these players. He's watching them himself. And so I really, truly do value Marty Herney and his input more so than Martin Mayhew. But and to your point, I think we have done a really solid job of drafting, and I'd like to see that continue. Hopefully this year's draft will, have a bunch of guys that come in and contribute right away and help this team win and win big in 2023. So, before I go, I got to send a huge, humongous, massive shout out to Bernard Douglas. Let me just give a massive shout out to Bernard Douglas right now. Bernard, man, I can't thank you enough for your generosity. A massive donation via Cash App from Bernard Douglas, man. Shout out to Bernard, man. You the real MVP. Can't thank you enough. And for those of you out there that want to donate, Cash App, PayPal are alternate ways to donate. Patreon as well. So I can't thank you guys enough for the support. Last night was so much fun. It was so lit. We had a great time. You guys were awesome. And just keep the party going, man. This is going to be like this. I feel like it's going to be a summer-long party for the remainder of the summer into the fall and the start of the season. We're going to be on cloud nine. The only thing that I think can put this into the back seat is football, honestly. Once they hit the field, I think we start refocusing our attention on the team and on football. But until then, this is all we're going to be talking about, really. And I don't mind. After dealing with Daniel Snyder's shit for 23 years, I don't mind at all. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Command Post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Once again, want to send a huge shout out to my guy Bernard Douglas for the tremendous dono. Can't thank you enough, man. Peace and blessings to you and yours. You guys enjoy the weekend. You know I am. Birthday is on Sunday. I'm going to have a blast with my wife this weekend. I ask that you do the same. Enjoy the weekend. You're probably still on cloud nine from yesterday, as you should be. Enjoy the weekend. We'll come back, reconvene next week. Big week next week. Training camp starts, and off and running we go. Bart Scott. Can't wait. For those of you looking for Reign of Terror, won't get one today. Traffic was everywhere today. It's just ridiculous. I don't understand why people can't just drive straight. What is the problem? So we'll probably pick that series up on Monday. If I can, if my wife will allow me, I may sneak on and get one episode or two done over the weekend. But the likelihood is she's going to lock my ass down. So probably won't get anything done until Monday. But in any event, enjoy your weekend. You know I will. And I'll see you. If anything else big happens, you'll see my face all up in your space. The likelihood is there's nothing else that can happen that is as massive as what we've just seen. So you probably won't see me until Monday. Anyway, you guys get out of here. Have a good one. God bless. Good night.